Story 1. The Whisper in the Woods. In the heart of central Arkansas, where the pines stretch endlessly toward a sky that seems to hold its breath, lies the small town of Mena. Every November, when the air turns crisp and the deer season beckons, my family would pile into our old pickup and head to our hunting cabin, a weathered relic built by my great-grandfather in 1984. The cabin, with its sagging porch and creaky floors, was a sanctuary of sorts, a place where time slowed and the world beyond the forest faded. Its walls, lined with faded photographs and antlers, whispered stories of hunts long past. 2 years ago, I invited my friends Austin and Cody for a pre-season muzzleload hunt, eager to share the tradition and scout a new spot for a deer stand. We arrived at the cabin under a sky bruised with twilight, the air heavy with the scent of pine and impending frost. The next morning, we ventured a mile from the cabin, our boots crunching through the underbrush as we searched for signs of deer. Tracks, rubs, anything to guide us. The forest was alive, its silence punctuated by the occasional snap of a twig or the distant call of a crow. We split up to cover more ground, agreeing to meet back in an hour. As I wandered, my eyes scanning the forest floor, I stumbled upon something unexpected. A pile of rocks, moss-covered and deliberately arranged. Kneeling closer, I saw it was a grave, the name Ed Crane etched faintly into a weathered stone. My pulse quickened, not from fear but curiosity. Who was Ed Crane, and why was his grave hidden here, far from any cemetery? I called Austin and Cody over, and we stood around the grave, our breaths visible in the chill. We snapped photos, the flash illuminating the eerie mound. Cody, ever the researcher, promised to dig into Ed Crane's story when we got back. That night, over a crackling fire and cans of beer, we speculated about the grave. Was Ed a hunter like us? A recluse? A victim of some forgotten tragedy? Cody's quick search on his phone yielded nothing, and we let the mystery simmer, content with the thrill of the unknown. 3 weeks later, Austin and I returned for the modern gun season. Cody couldn't make it, so it was just the two of us, our banter filling the cabin as we planned our hunt. I decided to try the stand we'd set up near Ed Crane's grave, drawn to the spot despite, or perhaps because of, its strangeness. Austin chose a spot by a small lake 1.5 miles away. At 4:45 a.m., I set out, my flashlight cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. The forest was familiar, a place I'd roamed since I was 9. Yet that morning it felt different, thicker, as if the trees were watching. I reached the stand and climbed up, settling in as the first hints of dawn bled into the sky. The grave was visible to my right, about 30 yards away, its rocks shrouded in brush. I couldn't stop glancing at it, a nagging unease settling in my chest. As the sun rose, I saw movement to my left, a flicker in the undergrowth. My heart leaped. A deer, I thought, my rifle ready. But when I turned, there was nothing, just the forest, still and silent. Then I heard it. "Hey!" A whisper scream, sharp and close, coming from behind me. I jolted, the stand rattling beneath me. My head whipped around, but the forest was empty. My breath caught, and I fumbled for my headlamp, its beam slicing through the dawn. Nothing. No footprints, no rustling, just the grave, staring back. Shaking, I grabbed my radio and called Austin. "You near me?" I asked, my voice trembling. No response. I tried again, scanning the trees, my pulse hammering. For 20 minutes, I sat frozen, the radio silent, my eyes darting between the grave and the shadows. Daylight finally broke, the fog lifting like a veil. I convinced myself I'd imagined it, that the forest was playing tricks. I forced my focus back to the hunt, my hands still trembling. Then at 7 a.m., and it came again. "Hey, Caleb!" The same whisper scream, now laced with my name. It was unmistakable, deliberate. Panic surged. I grabbed my gear, abandoning the radio on the stand, and scrambled down the ladder, nearly slipping. I speed walked back to the cabin, glancing over my shoulder every few steps, the forest closing in behind me. Austin wasn't at the cabin when I burst through the door, my chest heaving. When he finally returned, he looked confused. "Was that you screaming on the radio?" he asked. I told him everything, the voice, my name, the grave. He swore he hadn't been near me, his radio clipped to his belt the whole time. As we stood there trying to make sense of it, his radio crackled to life. Not static, but a guttural, animalistic screech, organic and wrong. We froze, staring at the device. It lasted seconds, then stopped. We left it on all day, but it never happened again. We returned the next week with Cody, determined to find my lost radio. It was gone, vanished from the stand and the ground below. We haven't hunted that spot since, nor anywhere near the gate that marks the path to Ed Crane's grave. The forest keeps its secrets, but I can still hear that voice, whispering my name in the dark. Story 2, The Man on the Bridge. It was a biting December night in our small Arkansas town, the kind where the cold seeps into your bones and the stars seem sharper, almost cruel. My friends Todd, Tristan, and I were restless, the monotony of winter break driving us to seek out something, anything to break the boredom. We'd been lounging at my place, flipping through channels and tossing around half-baked ideas when Tristan suggested we head to the old train station platform a few blocks away. It was a relic of the town's busier days, now abandoned, its rusted tracks stretching into the dark. We grabbed our cameras, bundled up, and set out, eager for a night of dumb photos and laughter. The platform was eerie under the sodium glow of a single streetlight, its concrete cracked and littered with cigarette butts. We goofed off, snapping pictures of each other, striking ridiculous poses, the flash illuminating the empty space. The air was sharp, our breath puffing out in clouds as we laughed, the sound echoing off the freight cars parked nearby. For a while it was perfect, just three friends, young and invincible, chasing a fleeting thrill. As the cold tightened its grip, our stomachs growled, and we decided to head back to the car for a late-night gas station run. The path took us over a long footbridge spanning a canal, its wooden planks creaking underfoot. The bridge was narrow, forcing us to walk single file. I led with Todd behind me and Tristan bringing up the rear. We were still joking, our voices carrying over the water below, when Tristan said something that made me laugh. I turned, still walking, to shoot him a grin, and froze. A man was behind Tristan, mere feet away, moving silently. He was in his late 30s, his face smudged with dirt, his eyes hollow under a black and white plaid ball cap. In one hand, he held a cigarette, its ember glowing faintly. In the other, a kitchen knife, its blade catching the moonlight. My heart stopped. He was close enough to touch Tristan, who was oblivious, still chuckling. Instinct screamed at me to act, but fear rooted me. I spun back around, pretending I hadn't seen him, and quickened my pace, praying Todd and Tristan would follow. My mind raced. Should I shout? Run? Confront him? I kept moving, my tripod clutched like a weapon, my pulse deafening. I glanced back. Todd and Tristan were matching my pace, confused but sensing my urgency. The man was still there, closer now, his steps eerily silent. He looked like he belonged with us, a shadow stitched to our group. We reached the end of the bridge, and the man veered right, taking a side path into the darkness. I exhaled, my legs trembling. Todd and Tristan still hadn't seen him. I grabbed Todd's arm, pulling him aside, and whispered what I'd seen. His face paled as he turned, but the man was gone, swallowed by the night. We hurried to the car, our laughter replaced by a tense silence. At the gas station, over stale coffee and chips, I told them everything. Tristan's eyes widened. He hadn't felt the man's presence at all. Days later, I was flipping through the photos from that night, my stomach still knotted from the memory. One image stopped me cold. Todd posing under the platform's light, grinning. But in the background, just beyond the freight car, was a silhouette. The man, his cap unmistakable, watching us. The photo was time-stamped 30 minutes before the bridge. He'd been there the whole time, waiting, his knife ready. I showed Todd and Tristan, and we sat in stunned silence, the weight of what could have happened crashing over us. We never went back to the platform, and I still check the shadows when I walk alone at night. Story 3, The Stranger in the Attic. When my husband, a Marine, and I bought our first home in a small North Carolina town, we were naive, dazzled by the idea of a fresh start. The town was billed as military-friendly, but the reality was grittier. Gunshots echoed down our street some nights, and the neighbors kept to themselves. His job kept him away often, training or working nights, leaving me alone in our creaky single-story house. I was a full-time college student, burying myself in essays and textbooks to fill the empty hours. Our pit bull mix, Simba, was my constant companion, a gentle giant who'd rather lick a stranger than growl. One night, as I lay in bed typing an essay, Simba's head snapped up, his ears pricked. A rustling sound came from above, like leaves skittering across the ceiling. Simba growled, low and guttural, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. I froze, my laptop sliding off my lap. He barked, sharp and urgent, his hackles rising. I'd never seen him like this. Assuming it was mice, I texted my husband, who was on a night shift. He promised to call pest control the next day. I tried to calm Simba, but he paced, his growls echoing in the quiet house. 2 days later, pest control came. The inspector, a gruff man with a clipboard, checked the attic and found signs of mice and roaches. He laid bait, sealed entry points, and assured me the problem was solved. I thanked him, relieved, and went back to my routine. But the rustling didn't stop. It grew louder, always at night, and Simba's reactions escalated. One night, his fur stood on end, his body rigid as he stared at the ceiling. My skin prickled. This wasn't mice. I called my husband, my voice shaking. He insisted it was just rodents, but I wasn't so sure. The next night, as I drifted toward sleep, I heard something new. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, pacing above. Simba didn't react, which made me doubt myself. I chalked it up to anxiety, a side effect of too many nights alone in a town that felt hostile. But the unease lingered, a weight in my chest. The following morning, I woke with a fever, my body sluggish. I dragged myself out of bed to let Simba out, heading to the garage where the backyard door was. The attic access was above it, a pull-down ladder I rarely noticed. As I reached for the door, I stopped, my stomach lurching. The attic door was covered in smudges and a single, massive handprint, streaked with dirt, on the inside. My knees buckled. Someone had been in the attic. I snapped a photo, my hands trembling, and called the police, then texted my husband, who couldn't respond yet. The police arrived quickly, their station just down the road. I showed them the handprint, babbling about the rustling, the footsteps, my growing fear that it wasn't mice. One officer's face hardened. "Stay here," he said, and they climbed into the attic. Minutes later, they came down, their expressions grim. They'd found a man, a meth addict from a house down the street, hiding behind boxes in the attic. He'd been living there for over a week, sneaking in through a loose vent when I was at class. The pest control inspector had missed him, too lazy to check thoroughly. The man had been coming and going at night, his footsteps the source of the rustling. My Ring camera hadn't caught him. He was too careful. The police arrested him, and I stood in the garage, Simba pressed against my leg as they led him away. We moved soon after, unable to stay in a house that felt violated. Years later, I still can't sleep alone without checking the locks, my heart racing at every creak. Simba's growl saved me, but the memory of that handprint haunts me still. Story 4. The Presence in the House. In 2006, I moved into a ramshackle house with my college friend Steven and his friend Heather, chasing cheap rent and independence. The house was a relic, its peeling paint and warped floors giving it a charm that felt both cozy and ominous. I worked overnights at a radio station, my schedule a blur of late-night broadcasts and bleary-eyed drives home. On my nights off, I kept the same hours, leaving me with too much time and too little sleep. To fill the void, I started wandering the nearby graveyard, a sprawling field of weathered stones and gnarled oaks. Armed with a camera and a tape recorder, I hunted for the paranormal, half hoping to catch something otherworldly. My first few visits yielded oddities. Photos with strange orbs, a faint hum on the recorder. One night, I captured something unmistakable. As I drove home, I played back the tape, my voice asking, "Is anyone here with us?" A weary, disembodied voice answered, "No." My car swerved, my heart pounding. I'd wanted proof, But now that I had it, I was terrified. I burst into the house and woke Stephen, playing the tape. He groaned, unimpressed, and told me to keep that crap out of the house. I laughed it off, but the seed of unease was planted. Soon the house began to change. One night, as I watched videos in my room, the decorative leaves on my wall, cheap plastic things I'd hung for color, started swaying as if struck by an invisible hand. I stared, my laptop forgotten, as they swung for seconds before stopping. Another night, a plastic shopping bag I'd left on the floor began crackling, like someone was crumpling it. I watched, frozen, as it hopped across the room, defying logic. I leapt onto my bed, yelling for Stephen over the phone. The moment he answered, the bag went still. He checked it for mice, finding nothing, and called me crazy. The nightmares were worse. Since childhood, I'd had a recurring dream where my eyes were forced shut, my teeth chattering, my voice trapped. In this house, it intensified. One night, as I drifted off, the sensation returned, stronger than ever. I taunted it, whispering, "Is that all you've got?" It answered with a force that pinned me, spinning my senses for 30 agonizing seconds. I woke gasping, the room too quiet. Then came the footsteps, booming, deliberate stomps at 5 a.m., shaking the house. Stephen was asleep, and no military base nearby could explain it. The final straw was a photo from a party. Stephen, Heather, and I posed in the living room, our giant mirror reflecting the scene. When I checked the image, my blood ran cold. Streaks of light, impossible, unexplainable, surrounded us. A yellow mass rose between Stephen and me, its shape vaguely human, with eyes and a sinister smile. I tried recreating the shot. The lights never reappeared. We moved out 10 months later, telling no one what we'd seen. I don't know if I brought something back from the graveyard or if the house was already haunted, but I've never gone ghost hunting again. Story 5, The Horror in Gary. In November 2019, my friend John, a quiet 27-year-old grappling with life's uncertainties, joined his friend Rich for a trip that would scar him forever. Rich was a thrill seeker, part of a niche hobby group obsessed with fire alarms and life safety equipment. His passion veered into the illegal. He'd break into abandoned buildings, stealing rare devices to sell on eBay. John, lonely and desperate for connection, went along, ignoring his misgivings. Their destination was Gary, Indiana, a city of crumbling factories and forgotten schools, its streets shadowed by decay and danger. They stayed in a motel in nearby Hammond, spending days prowling Gary's abandoned buildings. Rich ripped exit signs from walls while John took photos, his conscience nagging, but his loyalty to Rich stronger. On November 20th at 7 p.m., they entered Horace S. Norton Elementary, a derelict school at 1356 Harrison Boulevard. The doors gaped open, the air thick with the stench of sewage and rot. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, illuminating graffiti-smeared walls and scattered desks. John's camera clicked, capturing the decay, while Rich scavenged, his bag heavy with stolen gear. In the cafeteria, the silence was oppressive, the beam of John's flashlight trembling. They moved to the gym, its floor warped and dusty. John froze, his light catching a trail of blood. Dark and fresh, snaking across the tiles. Curiosity overpowered fear, and he followed it, Rich trailing behind. The trail led to a corner, and there, in a pool of crimson, lay a woman, 27, lifeless, her arms twisted grotesquely, her hands curled like claws. John's scream echoed through the gym. Rich grabbed him, whispering, "Shh, they might hear us." John, shaking, showed him the body. Rich's face was cold. "Don't say anything," he said. "Pretend this never happened." They fled to the motel, John's mind reeling. He couldn't stay silent. As soon as they reached their room, he called the police, ignoring Rich's glare. The woman, Adriana Sao, had been missing for 2 days. A text conversation led police to her killer, a teen who'd lured her to the school to rob her for weed and an iPhone. The robbery turned deadly, and her body was dumped in the gym. The teen turned in 2 accomplices, all charged as adults. The story hit the news, a grim headline in Gary's long list of tragedies. John cut ties with Rich, the betrayal too deep. The image of Adriana's body haunts him, a reminder of the cost of his silence, however brief. He avoids abandoned places now, the thrill gone, replaced by a lingering dread that follows him into the dark.